What's good? What's good? So this week we got a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about the Beehive. We're going to talk about how they need to help the police find all these missing black women all across America that nobody seems to talk about. So we'll get to that in a little bit. As always, what they do. This is your boy, the dope black lawyer, aka Josh Jones, ESQ, and this is another episode of Law and Hip Hop. This is the number one place to get hip legal information for the culture from the culture. So there's not another lawyer on YouTube that's providing this information on a regular basis. This is week number 21 in a row that we're on here now talking about the legal information that the culture needs and about the culture as well. So, um, before we go too far, welcome to Law and Hip Hop. Whether it's your first time, whether you've been here before, if you're new, go ahead and type new in the chat. And if you've been here before, type OG. So we also want you to let us know where you're watching from. Let us know if you're watching. As you know, I'm down in 305 Miami-Dade County, uh, CAU, Clark Atlanta University graduate. So rep your HBCU. Tell us who your pastor is. Let us know anything you want to let us know about you. But more than anything, we just want to make sure that we say welcome, welcome, welcome to this episode of Law and Hip Hop. All right. Also, let us know if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay. So if you're watching the replay, type replay. If you're watching live, go ahead and type live in all caps. If you have a question throughout the time or you have a comment, please feel free to leave your comments. We want to hear from you. And we want to know what you are interested in hearing about, what you have questions about. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to jump straight into this week's content. So the first story we're talking about is involving Tupac. I know it's kind of crazy, but they're still doing the. There's new information with regard to the murder investigation of Tupac. Now we know he died back in '96. He was killed after a Mike Tyson fight, on the Las Vegas Strip, um, and there's been a lot of shows, a lot of different content that's come out. For the most part, everybody kind of believes that the guy who Tupac and Suge and the group of people had stopped out inside of the MGM, Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, a Crip from LA, is the person who was responsible for the murder. There's been people who said they were in the car with him and everything, but it's still an open case. It has never been closed. So um, Orlando Anderson died like a year and a half or so after Pac died, and one of the key witnesses died about a month or two. One of the outlaws died about a month or two after Pac died. So um, there's been a lot of TV shows, like I said, a lot of movies about Tupac, even about Biggie, also another unsolved murder that's kind of related in some ways. We don't know necessarily if the killers and things are the same, but it's speculation that um, Biggie or Puff had something to do with the murder, saying that there was a bounty out on Pac and Suge Knight. So about a week ago, July 17th, the SWAT team in Henderson, which is a suburb of Las Vegas, went out to a home um, to um, to to take with a search warrant. They had a search warrant. They went out to the home, and they were able to come out with evidence. So there was different things. They were able to confirm that one of the gentlemen who says he was in the car, everybody kind of has heard about all throughout the years, Keefe D, who was a Compton Crip. Um, he was there. He confessed, saying that his nephew did it. He was in the car, all this stuff, but it's still an open case. But inside the car, excuse me, outside the car, inside the house, they found. Let me just read a little bit. So they found guns and bullets, and they're going to be testing this information. So they say that the Vegas homicide detectives say that they have kept forensic evidence for all of this time, and they also have bullet shells, gunpowder from the murder scene that they're now going to be testing with bullets that were taken from the home that they just executed the search warrant on. So we may find out shortly whether or not they are going to be able to link any of this stuff to the murders of Tupac and or Biggie. But it's kind of known they were out there in Vegas. It was a Tyson fight weekend, so I wasn't old enough to go to a Tyson fight weekend, but I can imagine it was probably very similar to like what it was like when I went to the Mayweather fight with Manny Pacquiao. A lot of people on the strip. Strip is loud, buzzing, everybody having a good time. So um, Keefe D says that they were out there looking for Pac and Suge, but after waiting a while, they left, went and got some drinks, went to the liquor store, got some drinks, came back and were about to leave again, but they heard a group of girls screaming Pac's name. So they made a U-turn and put themselves in a position. And once in position, they were able to shoot. So Keefe D says that he actually handed a Glock to Baby Lane, who was the shooter. So he said the first bullet hit Suge, grazed him on the head, and he said that Pac reached down. They thought he was reaching for a gun. He came up. He only had a straw. A lot of people were saying that Suge used Pac as a shield, but Keefe D, if you believe he was there, I do. He says that's far from the truth. He said Suge was already hit before Pac ever got hit. So Suge had already gotten hit. And further, if you know what Suge looks like, so you can see on the picture that Suge, if you don't know, right in front of Pac in the white suit. So Suge is huge. So how is he going to use 140-pound Pac as a shield when he's 265, 280 pounds, right? So anyway, that's always kind of been thought will happen. Keefe D said they left the scene, ditched the car, and came back and partied it up on the strip. So that's wild, but nothing's wilder than the fact that Keefe D has talked so much throughout the years about who was there and what happened, and especially implicating himself, even though he says that he has immunity. So just because you have immunity for one thing, you may slip and say too much and find yourself in trouble for another thing. So, anytime that you actually are saying that you actively participated in the crime, you probably should just shut up and just chill, right? But he's not doing that. At one point, he said, "I got cancer. I'm going to pass away anyway, so I just want the truth to be out there." And that's kind of what happened. So he says he doesn't feel bad for Pac. He said nobody should have rolled up on his nephew, baby Lane, like that. And um, he's just saying it is what it is. So that's kind of an update and a super old story that has that a lot of people have cared about for many years, and it's obvious based on all of the different things that have come out and that have been produced related to Tupac's killing. So we're going to move on at this point in the show, and we're going to go to the next slide, which is talking about something that's been highly talked about over the last couple of weeks. I kind of talked about missing black women. This was a time when kind of people kind of gathered around and rallied around a missing black woman. And it has come out, she was found that she never had been kidnapped at all. So if you have not heard recently, this woman on the photo is Carly Russell. And there was a press conference yesterday. Her attorney, Emory Anthony, admitted in a letter that the 25-year-old woman didn't see a toddler wandering on Alabama's Hoover Interstate and staged a kidnapping, which led to nationwide efforts to search for her. So this what goes back 2 weeks to July 13th. She was missing for about 49 hours before popping up at her parents' crib. She just showed up. So now they're consulting with the district attorney's office to see if there's going to be any charges that are going to be filed against Carly. So last week, it was found out that in the days leading up to her disappearance, that she had Googled topics like paying for Amber Alerts, purchasing bus tickets from Birmingham to Nashville, and the 2008 movie Taken was also in her search results. So, you know, Twitter had a special set of skills like Liam Neeson did on that movie, and they figured out and kind of got to the bottom of it. She's been fired from her job as well. So she was working at a spa, and she's also a nursing student. But her ex-boyfriend initially defended her, asking the public to stop bullying her, but has since released a statement about falling for a false narrative. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen so that I can show you the statement that I'm referring to. So we got it pulled up right here. So this is a statement posted on Philip Lewis's page from her ex-boyfriend, Thomas Tomar Latrell Simmons. What a name. So Carly's actions created hurt, confusion, and dishonesty for hold on. Carly's actions created hurt, confusion, and dishonesty. I was made aware of the false narrative after coming to the defense of my ex, Carly Russell. Myself and my family's nature was to react in love and genuine concern. We are disgusted from the outcome of this entire situation. I feel strongly, I strongly feel exactly like you all, blindsided with Carly's actions. This is still an ongoing investigation, but with all of the recent information and her confession now, we gain closure with the situation. Thank you to all my family, friends, and the nation for support through this. I want to also send my prayers and thanks to Miss Angela Haley Harris, her team, and all of the volunteers. Thank you again for your unwavering support. The severity in this matter has not been overlooked, and I deeply respect the genuine support shared during this situation. Please continue to keep us in your prayers. With love, Tomar. So, yeah, I mean, it's a very harsh statement. It's kind of, who knows what was going on with this young black woman to make her do something like this. I do hope that this does not deter people from caring about black women who go missing or black girls who go missing in the future. This story got all types of press. I don't know how she was able to manufacture that, but she may have a career as a PR agent for a public relations specialist for missing black women and children. But people really cared about what was going on, and I feel I share some of the sentiments, for those people who feel some type of way about being duped. But I hope that doesn't, keep them from giving and change their nature moving forward. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna keep it moving. We've got one guy who you all probably know, one guy who you may or may not know, but if you watch Shark Tank or if you know about FUBU or anything like that, then you know Damon John. And he was granted a restraining order against this big swole brother, Bubba, um, Bubba Baker, who played in the NFL and was a contestant on Shark Tank. And apparently he had made a deal with Damon, and the deal didn't go well. So Damon John claims that he was verbally attacked on social media, and they were calling their experience on Shark Tank a nightmare. The judge granted this restraining order. He said that the comments made by Bubba and his Bubba Q team were all disparaging towards Damon John and one of the manufacturers who they work with, and said that they need to remove all of these comments and refrain from making any future comments as well. So, uh, you know, if you watch Shark Tank, you see a lot of deals. People go on there with the American dream. They want to take their small business and they want to be able to try to scale it up as big as possible to be able to do whatever it is that is in their heart, the mission that was placed on their heart to change the world. And a lot of times when you see these deals, even when they happen, the people that have come on there a lot of times are like, you know, without this deal, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep my business going. I don't know if I'll be able to ever get it to where I want to get. So they put a lot into it, and these sharks a lot of times are very vicious in that way. They'll go on there and they'll say, "Look, I want 80% or 60%, and I need to know in 5 seconds or no deal." So people go on here and they make these deals. But what you don't see on Shark Tank is that, well, if you watch in small print, they talk about, or it's not that small, but it's not on the screen that long. But they talk about how there's going to be what's called due diligence after the show. So after the show, you go on there and you made a deal, let's say with Damon, and Damon's team is going to get an opportunity to review your books and review everything to make sure that whatever you advertise on Shark Tank as being true about your business is true. And if it's not, then they can pull out. So if you do a Google search, you can find it. It's out there. But shark by shark, Damon is one of the sharks whose deals end up being the least successful. So they have percentages. So Mark Cuban, if you make a deal with Mark, you have a higher chance that your deal is going to actually go all the way through and have a chance at being successful. So I even know people who have made deals with sharks on Shark Tank, and their experiences are all different, but for the most part, the success that you see on Shark Tank is short lived. You get a quick hit, like your website's probably going to crash, but it doesn't last, right? Or unless you're lucky, unless you really had some your ducks in a row and had a plan. But some of the more successful people are the people who leverage Shark Tank by going on there just to get in front of millions of people on TV and not making a deal. So I know Ring Cameras, they were one of the companies that came on Shark Tank in the past. And I think the Sharks may have even just passed on it. But you see people go on there just for the exposure. So to me, that's probably the better way. But from what I could tell you, Damon is a little dude and he wants no smoke from Bubba Baker. All right. So he wanted to make sure he had that restraining order to keep that brother away from him. He's talking about on social media, but he don't want to have no smoke. He don't want no smoke ribs. He don't want nothing. He just really wants to be left alone. He don't want to fool with that. So uh, I don't know if Bubba's still out here making barbecue, but it looks delicious. I wish you success with your business moving forward. And hopefully this doesn't keep you from being able to continue to live that dream after football. So he played NFL. We see a lot of NFL players who end up, flat broke, but Bubba's still out here. So salute to Bubba for even being out here doing what, you know, he has to do to keep his life going. So shout out Bubba. So we got another story, and this is a crazy one, but the man that you see, the black man you see on the left, Mike Rohn Jr., was killed by the man you see on the right, Sean Tonkin, after having some type of incident at a store. So Sean Tonkin was calling Mike Rohn all types of nigger this and racial slur that, and they ended up getting into a situation. Most of the people who were present at the time are saying that Sean Tonkin was the aggressor, and to date, this happened a couple of weeks ago. To date, the only charges that have been brought against Sean Tonkin is a misdemeanor for disturbing the peace. And he was also charged with a low level drug felony for having less than a gram of meth on him when he was arrested. So supposedly the prosecutors are still weighing their charges, uh, and more charges may be forthcoming. We will continue to wait. It's something that we see time and time again. We saw with the white lady in Ocala who shot through her door, killed the black woman. She was not charged with the highest charge of murder, but she was actually charged with manslaughter. In this case, this man is not even charged with any type of manslaughter at all, and he's probably going to be home soon. He's got $2,500 bond to get out of jail that I'm sure he'll be able to get out, and it always makes me just think about it. But there's a similar kind of incident where a black man in Florida was also being harassed by white people, two young white kids in Florida, and the he says he feared for his life, but but he was charged with a murder after he shot at and killed one of the white kids who was actually making fun of him. So we have a video of the homeless man who this references. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to share my screen with you so I can show you. Um, and you can make your own mind up about it. But here you can see um, you got one guy, and you see the black guy walking up. And now this is a little later, but it shows they're kind of taunting him, and then they left and came back. So anytime somebody leave and come back, I'm already thinking it's there. You go. You heard one of the shots. The guy ran away, and so then he shot the other guy, and the, and that guy ended up succumbing to his injuries. He passed away. But a gun was found in the driver's side of the car at the time. But they did still charge this black man with the murder um, of that young man. And I'm not saying whether he should have been or shouldn't have been. I'm just showing you, comparing and contrasting how the different situations are handled. But um, in both cases, hopefully, whatever justice needs to happen and actually does end up happening. Um, and both families get the, whoever deserves justice gets justice. So um, we got another story that you may have heard about. This is a young lady. She goes by the name Sassy Trucker, and she was over in Dubai. And that's where people go these days. You want to have a good time, you go to Dubai, you have an extravagant trip. And as she was returning her rental car, there was a she ended up being arrested. So she says that well, her mother said that she dealt with an aggressive man who was yelling at her and that she yelled back. But the Dubai police say that the woman, Sassy Trucker, on TikTok, um, was arrested for slandering and defaming an employee amidst the dispute over car rental fees, not just yelling in public. So, defamation for women is considered a highly punishable crime in Dubai and carries a sentence for up to 2 years. So, there was a video her mom did release as well that we're going to also share. So, you can hear from her mom and her mom's representative, Quanell X. So,
with a very aggressive individual, a young man there who was screaming at her.
Baxter says her 29-year-old daughter ultimately yelled back at the rental, resulting in her being charged for screaming there in Dubai.
And so she is in jail for one reason and one reason alone. She raised her voice. In that country, a female is not even allowed to raise her voice. If she raises her voice, it's punishable by jail time.
It's been very emotional. There are some days I stay up all night crying.
They have a strict law system that is really based on theocracy.
She dealt with.
So we'll see what happens with the sister, but I do know that Dubai is a place where women are not treated the same as they are here in other places. When I went to Dubai some years back, the group of people I was with, we were highly aware of this, and it's important that wherever you go, you know the laws, you know what you can and what you can't do, and you don't deviate from those customs and norms. So hopefully they are able to get Sassy Trucker back. There's still efforts being made, international diplomats and things like that, to try to get her home without the need for that 2-year sentence. So before we keep going, I want to say once again, welcome to Law and Hip Hop, the number one place to get legal information and news for the culture, from the culture. I am the Dope Black Lawyer, aka Josh Jones ESQ. And if you're watching live, go ahead and let us know that you're watching live and where you're watching from. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those comments, and we will answer them when we see them. So going on to the next story, it involves a football player, Jordan Addison, who was driving 100 and let's see, he was driving 140 miles an hour last week in a 55 mile per hour zone, and he ended up being arrested for misdemeanor charges. However, he was in a Lamborghini, if that matters to you. But he says that the reason why he was driving so fast was because he had an emergency that was related to his dog, his pet. So he was trying to get where he needed to go so he could try to help his dog. And he says that he apologizes and he promises not to repeat that behavior. But it's also, important to make sure that you're driving safely. Even if you have an emergency like that, the better thing to do was probably to call for an EMT. I don't know if the dog was even in the car with him, but call for the authorities to help you, so that presumably they're trained to drive in those types of situations, and they can get you the help that you need, and you don't have to worry about being arrested and things like that. But but Dorian wants to know about what's going on with the UFOs in the USA. So I don't know too much about that, but I do think that we've got some. We all got some aliens living all amongst us that we interact with on a daily basis. So I'm not surprised to hear about that. And if they're here, I think they're probably also where you are in Nicaragua, my friend. But thanks for that, Dorian. We appreciate you. But yeah, Jordan, slow down a little bit, man. We know you want to care for your pets. We all care about the animals. So yeah, there's that. And also, another story, speaking of Dorian had a question a few weeks ago. He was very interested in the YNW Melly trial. Well, that trial finally ended after 2 or 3 weeks, and it was declared a mistrial. So Melly, just a recap, was on trial for murder. And at the time of the murder, Melly was 19. And the jury said that they were unable to reach a unanimous decision. The judge asked them to continue to review evidence. And after 3 days or so, they were still unable to come to any type of resolution. Melly's mom said it was 6-6. Excuse me, was 9-3, not guilty. But a reporter has come back and said that based on her reporting, that it was actually 6-6. They were also trying to get possibly try Melly for murder as well. For the death penalty as well. And the law recently changed, saying that instead of it having to be unanimous, that 8-4 would be enough for someone to be able to be sentenced to death. So the state has already said they're going to retry the case. You can also see on here, you can see Melly's attorney, Dope Black Lawyer of the Week, David Howard. David Howard is a criminal defense lawyer serving South Florida. I actually know Dave. Dave went to Howard University undergrad, University of Miami School of Law, and is a member of the esteemed Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. I promise you, you do not have to be a Q to be the DBL of the day. But there's a higher probability that you will be the Dope Black Lawyer today if you're a Q, because the Qs are out here doing fantastic things in the world. So shout out to all the Qs all across the world doing fantastic things. All right. So moving on, starts off like a small town marriage, but it ends in Hollywood divorce. DJ Dijon Mustard has finally been granted a divorce from his now ex-wife. So his name actually is Dijon McFarland, hence why he goes by DJ Mustard. He was married to Chanel Theory, an American, and I guess she was like some type of kind of like an influencer. She had like a small lifestyle brand, and the judges ordered that DJ Mustard will be paying $24K a month in child support, no spousal support, and if you look at these things as like wins and losses, I guess you could say that it was a win for DJ Mustard. The woman was looking for $82,000 a month in child support as well as spousal support, and she did not get either of those things. She did get a one-time payment for $315K, but DJ Mustard is going to be able to keep all of his property, his houses, his music royalties, jewelry collection, cars, all that stuff, and he still is going to have rights to his kids. It's been a sort of ugly divorce. Unfortunately, they've been having disputes mainly over how their kids will be able to be put on social media. Mustard believes that Chanel is using them and exposing them to harm by posting them on social media. And the judge says that they both can still do it, but they obviously need to, be responsible. So we wish both individuals the best, and most importantly, that their kids get the love and support from both parents and both families. So also, this week. Tina Knowles is filed for divorce from her husband, Richard Lawson. They've been married for 8 years. After her marriage to Matthew Knowles, who she had two kids, Beyonce and Solange, with. And obviously, Beyonce is on tour right now. And the Beehive, this is what I was referring to earlier, they were able to figure out that something wasn't right in the Lawson home. They hadn't seen Richard Lawson with Tina, which was unusual, as you know, as Tina's been on tour with Beyonce for all this time. So they just actually filed recently. Tina filed, and she said that they'd been separated since July 25th, which is only 2 days ago, and she cited irreconcilable differences, which is kind of just like the standard magic language that you use for when you're filing for a divorce. So again, we wish both parties the best. There's no children from this marriage. They're both super old, but they're both back on the market. Richard's 76, and Tina 69. So I mean, they both look like they're in good shape. So if you want to try to get at either one of them, this might be a good time to shoot your shot. So the only shots that you guarantee not to make are the ones you don't take. So if you want to holler at Tina or Richard, go ahead and shoot that shot. And we got a couple more stories for you. So this is for What the Florida, man. What the Florida is going on with this crazy ass girl here? So this 19-year-old woman disemboweled a man's puppy and made a chilling threat before her arrest. So Yadalyn Marin was taken into custody a week after an incident at her home. Police said that just after midnight, the victim was alerted by a friend to go into the bathroom, and after walking in, he saw his puppy disemboweled and Marin sitting in the bathtub. And guess what she told him, though? She said, "You're next." So if that don't creep you out, I don't know what will. So, bruh ran away and called the police. The police came and arrested Marin, and she returned to the man's home on Wednesday and spit in the police officer's face as she was being taken into custody. So I don't know who she thinks she is. Pac, I see her. She got the tats on her face. She thugged out, man. Golly, if you get a close up of Miss Marin. So she was charged with animal cruelty with intent to kill and misdemeanor battery, and she's being held in TGK, which is the local jail where all of the people who commit these crimes are held. So, man, what the Florida is going on with her? And last but not least, we're gonna pour out a little liquor. So, YNG Cheese, who was a rapper, 25-year-old rapper, and the son of Gilly the Kid, who's also a rapper, also a podcaster now with his cousin. They got the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. Was killed in a triple shooting in Philadelphia. He was shot in the back, and he was recently funeralized. And we want to send our condolences to Gilly and his family. And Michael K. Williams, who everybody knows as Omar from one of the best shows that ever came on TV, The Wire, and a talented actor who was in many, many other things. He had died last year from an overdose, but one of the people who was responsible for him getting the what is that? Oh man, the one that be taking people out. It's the fentanyl. So he took some drugs that had fentanyl in it, and he died. So one of the guys was a 72-year-old drug dealer, Carlos Macy. He was sentenced to only 2.5 years, but he did get sentenced recently. So we did want to shout out and acknowledge both of these brothers who are now ancestors and wish condolences to their families. And real quick, we just want to recap. I see we got some new people who are on here who may not have been on for the whole time. So we'll just take it back to the beginning. And As we talked about, there's an investigation that's still going on into the murder of Tupac Shakur. They just executed a search warrant on the home of one of the alleged gang members. Well, he said he was in the car, Keefe D, and they've actually found evidence. So they're going to be testing that evidence, and maybe we'll finally get to the finality and true answer of who killed Tupac. Carly Russell, young woman who disappeared in Alabama, she admitted that she was not kidnapped. Her attorney issued a statement, and her ex-boyfriend went off on her, saying how terrible of a person she was. But we're still hoping that people continue to take missing Black women and children seriously. Damon John, in fear of his life from this big NFL football playing brother, Bubba Baker, got a restraining order because of the comments that Baker made after their Shark Tank deal went south. So his restraining order was granted. John Roan was killed by this white man, Sean Tonkin. White man was not charged with any crimes related to the death, only with disturbing the peace at a store, even though all of the people who were there are saying that he was the aggressor in this incident, which is about white. And then the sassy trucker went over to Dubai and got, I guess, a little bit too aggressive for their liking. She was charged with defamation and slander, which is a crime that carries up to a 2-year sentence for women in Dubai. So ladies, be careful as you're traveling to get your pictures on the gram. Maybe Dubai and some of these other very, very conservative countries should not be on your list. Jordan Addison, first round pick of the Minnesota Vikings, was cited for speeding and charged for speeding, going 140 in a 55 mile per hour zone. He said he had an emergency regarding his pet. He didn't really get too specific, but hopefully he says he's going to slow down. Hopefully he does, and hopefully everything's okay with his dog. Y&W Melly was found, there was a mistrial, so he wasn't found anything, but there was a mistrial in his case for murder, and his lawyer, David Howard, was the dope Black lawyer of the day. And they expect that the prosecutors are going to retry the case, which is kind of not fair to the defense because now they already know all of their best stuff. So they will be able to, prepare for that this time. And DJ Mustard and his wife, Chanel Theory, divorce is finalized. And when one divorce finalizes, another one pops up. So Tina Knowles and Richard Lawson, Tina just filed for divorce yesterday against Richard Lawson. And this is the Florida story of the day. So, man, this lady's crazy, but she dismembered her boyfriend's pet, told him that he was next, only in Florida. And then we poured out a little liquor for our brothers YNG Cheese and Michael K. Williams. I also want to remind everybody to make sure that you check the back seats of your cars. Please don't leave any children in the vehicles. All right. There was a story of 2 people. They were car shopping and they left the baby in the car for 38 minutes. They were charged with being negligent parents, but luckily, praise the Lord, the baby did not have any damage, did not die, no brain damage, no nothing. So the baby's okay. But please make sure that you do not leave children in cars, even with the air on, because they can turn it off and do something. But make sure that you are not leaving kids in cars, especially with the windows up and no AC, because that is tragically a way that many, many kids die. And other than that, let us know what you really want to hear about. These are the stories that we find and that we think that are the ones that you're going to want to see, that you're going to find to be entertaining and educational at the same time. But we want to know what exactly you want to know about. So, Dorian, I might have some information for you next week about those UFOs. But so far, they say they're here, but we haven't seen any pictures. But I know that they're here. I didn't need them to tell me that. So let us know what you want. You could leave it in the comments. You could post it on any of our social media. We're Dope Black Lawyer everywhere, even on Threads, which is new. So we're on IG, we're on Twitter, we're on TikTok. I think we're on Facebook too. I'm not 100% sure about that. I can't remember if we're on Facebook, but You can also send us an email to holla@dopeblackLawyer.com or an audio message to speakpipe.com/dopebblacklawyer. And whichever way you reach out to us, we'll make sure to reach back out to you and also share whatever information we have online. If you need help finding a dope black lawyer for a case, don't post it in any of the public places, but send us a private message and we'll make sure to connect you with a dope black lawyer. As you know, we have a nationwide network where whatever kind of case you have, we're going to find you a dope black lawyer. If we don't already have one, we will find one because we know that there will be one who will exist. So that's the show for the week. If you get hurt or get pulled over, make sure you holler at the dope black lawyer. I appreciate you spending time with me today and look forward to seeing you the same time next week.